Hello there and a very warm welcome to this special initiative in partnership with Hdfc, Ergo and Speak In. What we're really attempting to do is to turn the spotlight on what is now being described as one of the biggest exercises to change the face of mobility in India. Electric vehicles. There's a lot of buzz about what needs to be done to enhance India's status in this space. We have with us the one and only Honorable Union Minister, Mr. Nitin Gadkari, who's here with us. Also with me, Deepshikha ji, who is the CEO of Speak In, and Anuj, who is the Deputy Managing Director of Hdfc Ergo. Warm welcome to all of you. Nitin ji, स्वागत है आपका बहुत बहुत. Thank you. हर बार आपसे बात करके बहुत अच्छा लगता है. सबसे पहले मैं चाहूंगा कि दीपशिखा जी आपके सम्मान में कुछ शब्द कहें. दीपशिखा जी.
Thank you so much, Gadkari साहब. बहुत धन्यवाद आपका, आपने हमें समय दिया है. It's such a pleasure to be here. I run a very small startup called Speak In, and it's an ode to you and all the fantastic atmosphere that you've created for us. So thank you so much. It's an initiative on electric vehicle side, and I would request Anuj now to come forward and set the context for this conversation. Thank you once again. Thank you.
Thank you, Deepshikha.
Thank you. Namaskar.
For letting me speak. मेरे लिए और हमारे लिए तो बहुत बड़ा सौभाग्य है that we have माननीय मंत्री जी हमारे समक्ष हैं आज, और हम सबको पता है how passionate he is about the electric vehicle transformation in the country. Personally, मंत्री जी, मैं आपका बहुत बड़ा फैन हूँ. आप कुछ उन चुनिंदा व्यक्तियों में से हैं जो अपने काम से बोलना ज़्यादा पसंद करते हैं. आप जनमानस के नेता माने जाते हैं. माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी की कैबिनेट में आप बहुत सीनियर मंत्री हैं और बहुत बड़े, मेरे ख्याल से जिन लोगों को नहीं पता है उन्हें सिर्फ 46,000 किलोमीटर का जो हाईवे पिछले 7 सालों में बना है, या जो 36-37 किलोमीटर पर डे के हाईवेज बनने शुरू हो गए हैं, उनको सिर्फ ये बता दें तो उसके बाद, या जो एक बहुत बड़ी क्रांति आप इस देश में लेके आए हैं टोल कलेक्शन को डिजिटाइज करके, और जो शायद हो सकता है आने वाली जनरेशन्स को भी समझ में आएगा कि कितनी बड़ी क्रांति, और सबको इतनी शांति से सारे स्टेक होल्डर्स को एक साथ लाके आपने किया. तो मैं पर्सनली आपका बहुत बड़ा फैन हूं, और इसलिए बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद माननीय श्री गडकरी जी के आज आप हमारे साथ HDFC Ergo EV समिट पे हमारे साथ आए और हमारा मार्गदर्शन करने के लिए तैयार हुए. मेरे ख्याल से इलेक्ट्रिक मोबिलिटी इज द फ्यूचर, इस पे तो कोई डाउट ही नहीं है, ये तो कोई डिबेट ही नहीं है. The only discussion is then what will be the pace of adoption in the various economies in the world. और मेरा पर्सनली ये मानना है कि हमारा देश जो है can be a flag bearer as far as the electric vehicle adoption is concerned. और माननीय मंत्री जी, आप जो डायरेक्शन में काम कर रहे हैं, ये हम सब बड़े उत्सुक हैं जानने के लिए. क्लीन एनवायरनमेंट इलेक्ट्रिक मोबिलिटी से आएगा, ये तो एक गिवन है, बट इसके अलावा हमारे जैसे इकोनॉमी के लिए the economic benefit for a country like India is huge, जहां हमें पता है कि हमारा 80% fossil fuel के requirement हम import करते हैं. So this can clearly be a transformation for the country. Personally, electric vehicle user के लिए उसकी जो low maintenance cost है और ₹1 पर किलोमीटर पे जो ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन, उसको जो ट्रांसपोर्टेशन हम सबको मिलेगा, ये सब तो इसके बारे में और इससे ज़्यादा कुछ बोलने की कोई गुंजाइश है नहीं. मेरे हिसाब से मंत्री जी, आपकी अंडर योर लीडरशिप द कंट्री इज टेकिंग द राइट स्ट्राइड्स. और इससे ज़्यादा मैं और कुछ ना कह के इस प्रसंग पे हम सब बड़े उत्सुक हैं कि आपके विचार जानें और आप हमें इस संदर्भ में मार्गदर्शित करें। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद मंत्री जी आपका, और मंच आपका है। ओवर टू यू सर। थैंक यू वेरी मच।
थैंक यू सर। ऐसा है कि हिंदुस्तान का जो ऑटोमोबाइल मार्केट है बड़ा कॉस्ट कॉन्शियस है। अभी जैसे मैं ये मानता हूँ कि इसके लिए आप बोलते हैं ना कब ईवी आएगी, कितने दिन में आएगी, इसकी कोई ज़रूरत नहीं है। इसका सबसे बड़ा कारण ऐसा है कि इंपोर्ट सब्सटीट्यूट, कॉस्ट इफेक्टिव, पोल्यूशन फ्री और इंडिजिनियस, ये चार बातें हमारे लिए महत्वपूर्ण है। अभी हम लोग 8 लाख करोड़ रुपए का क्रूड ऑयल इंपोर्ट कर रहे हैं, गैस एंड क्रूड ऑयल, और आने वाले 5 साल में ये 25 लाख करोड़ का होगा। अब जब 25 लाख करोड़ का इंपोर्ट होगा तो देश की इकोनॉमी पर उसका परिणाम क्या होगा, देश के प्रदूषण के ऊपर क्या परिणाम होगा, पर्यावरण पर। तो मुझे लगता है ये बड़ी इंपॉर्टेंट बात है, और इसलिए हमें इंपोर्ट सब्सटीट्यूट, कॉस्ट इफेक्टिव, पोल्यूशन फ्री और इंडिजिनियस अल्टरनेटिव की तरफ जाना पड़ेगा। अभी अल्टरनेटिव अनेक है, उसमें से वन ऑफ द इम्पॉर्टेंट है जो आज का सब्जेक्ट है, वो ई व्हीकल है। तो पहली बात तो ऐसी है कि ई व्हीकल में एक सिंपल बात आपको बताऊंगा भूपेंद्र जी, आप मेरी बात सुनने के बाद आप तुरंत जब गाड़ी लोगे तो ई व्हीकल ही लोगे, आपको किसी पुश की जरूरत नहीं है। पेट्रोल से जब गाड़ी चलेगी तो 10 रुपये किलोमीटर खर्चा है, डीजल से चलेगी तो 7 रुपये किलोमीटर है, और इलेक्ट्रिक से चलोगी तो 1 रुपया है। और अभी जो लाइफ साइकिल है लिथियम आयन बैटरी की पर किलोवाट आवर की, वो अभी $150 है प्रेजेंटली, वो हमें $100 तक ले जाना, $100 किलोवाट पर आवर, और वो दिन अब दूर नहीं है। मैं एक्सपेक्ट कर रहा हूँ कि 2 साल के अंदर ये कॉस्ट आ जाएगी, और पेट्रोल व्हीकल की कॉस्ट और इलेक्ट्रिक की कॉस्ट सेम हो जाएगी, क्योंकि ये वॉल्यूम का गेम है। और इसलिए इसमें सबसे इम्पॉर्टेंट कॉस्ट जो होती है वो लिथियम आयन की होती है। अब ये जो बैटरी में हमने रिसर्च किया है, 81% इसकी वैल्यू लिथियम आयन बैटरी वो है, वो इंडिया में बनती है। अब जो 19% बैलेंस है वो भी मैं आने वाले 1 साल के अंदर हम 100% बना सकेंगे, ये मेरा विश्वास है। अभी देखो हमने स्क्रैपिंग पॉलिसी आई, उसमें से एल्यूमिनियम, कॉपर, स्टील, रबर, प्लास्टिक निकलेगा, तो मैग्नेट भी निकलता है उससे, फिर उससे लिथियम आयन भी निकलता है स्क्रैपिंग से। तो हम लोग अलग अलग प्रकार के सोर्स से कर रहे हैं, और लिथियम आयन अभी उसके साथ साथ हम और बैटरी केमिस्ट्री पे हमारे देश में अध्ययन कर रहे हैं। वो बैटरी केमिस्ट्री क्या है, सोडियम आयन, जिंक आयन, एल्यूमिनियम आयन, उस पर भी लगभग हम लोग अभी मुझे लगता है ब्रेक थ्रू के नज़दीक पहुँचे हैं। तो इस सब के कारण क्या होगा कि लो कॉस्ट जो हो जाएगी, तो पेट्रोल डीजल की तुलना में ये कॉस्ट भी कम हो जाएगी, और जो है 10 गुना, अगर आपको जब यू आर सीनियर जर्नलिस्ट, आप अच्छी गाड़ी यूज़ करते होंगे, तो पेट्रोल गाड़ी होगी आपके पास, अब आपका जो कुछ पैकेज है उसमें से आप 15 से 20 हज़ार रुपये महीना पेट्रोल पे खर्चा करते हैं। अगर यही बात अगर 1,000 रुपये आ जाएगी, 1500 रुपये पर मंथ, तो आपका 14,000 रुपये का सेविंग होगा। तो मुझे बताइए कि मुझे आपको बताने की क्या जरूरत है, इलेक्ट्रिक गाड़ी लो।
सही बात।
तो दूसरा एक तो ये इंपॉर्टेंट है। तीसरा, अभी तुरंत एक ऑर्डर निकाल रहा हूँ, और जिसको मुझे ऑटोमोबाइल कंपनी ने भी अभी काफ़ी पॉजिटिव रिस्पॉन्स दिया है, कि ब्राज़ील, कनाडा और यूएसए में फ्लेक्स इंजन है। फ्लेक्स इंजन का मतलब ये है कि आप 100% पेट्रोल डालो या 100% बायो इथेनॉल डालो। तो ये अब आने के कारण ऐसा होगा कि जैसे हमारे यहाँ जो कार है, फिर स्कूटर और बाइक है, अब बन गई है फ्लेक्स इंजन की, बजाज की बनी, मैंने लॉन्च की, फिर टीवीएस ने बनाई, सब ने बनाई है। तो ये 100% पेट्रोल और इथेनॉल, जो मैंने 10 रुपये किलोमीटर का खर्चा बताया, इसमें ये 2 रुपये 3 रुपये तक आएगा, 3 रुपये तक। तो नेचुरली एकदम कॉस्ट कम हो जाएगी। तो ये जो हमने फ्लेक्स इंजन की बात की है, ये भी आज ब्राज़ील, कनाडा और यूएसए में है, वो भी हमारे आएगा। दूसरा जो इम्पोर्टेंट चीज़ है वो जो है ग्रीन हाइड्रोजन। अब मैं कोशिश कर रहा हूँ कि एक 2 महीने में मैं अपनी खुद की दिल्ली की गाड़ी ग्रीन हाइड्रोजन पर चलाना चाहता हूँ, ताकि लोगों में विश्वास हो जाए। अब ये ग्रीन हाइड्रोजन जो है, इसमें क्या होता है कि जैसे हर म्यूनिसिपल कॉरपोरेशन में दिल्ली में मैंने 6,000 करोड़ रुपए यमुना में वेस्ट वाटर को रिसाइकलिंग शुद्ध करने के लिए हमने उस समय पैसे दिए भारत सरकार की ओर से। तो अब हम क्या करेंगे, वो वाटर शुद्ध करके वहीं जो सॉलिड वेस्ट ऑर्गेनिक वेस्ट है, उससे भी हम ग्रीन हाइड्रोजन बना सकते हैं। और दूसरी ओर ये वहीं उसके लिए बड़े बड़े शेड बनते हैं, उसके ऊपर रूफटॉप सोलर लगाएंगे तो बिजली की कॉस्ट 2 रुपये यूनिट से कम होगी। तो ग्रीन हाइड्रोजन में 70% कॉस्ट जो है वो इलेक्ट्रिक की है, और वो अगर सोलर 2 रुपये यूनिट की मिल जाएगी, पानी फुकट का हो जाएगा, तो ग्रीन हाइड्रोजन की कॉस्ट 60 रुपये किलो 70 रुपये किलो आ जाएगी। तो इट इज़ ए फ्यूल फॉर द फ्यूचर। और इंडिया ग्रीन हाइड्रोजन को एक्सपोर्ट करने वाला देश बनेगा। रेलवे चलेगी, स्टील इंडस्ट्री, थर्मल कोल के बजाय ग्रीन हाइड्रोजन यूज होगा, केमिकल, फर्टिलाइजर, फार्मास्यूटिकल, सब जगह रेलवे चलती है। अभी यूके और जर्मनी में रेलवे ग्रीन हाइड्रोजन पे चली, ट्रक चलते हैं। तो इसमें इलेक्ट्रोलाइजर जो है, जो ऑक्सीजन और हाइड्रोजन को अलग करता है, उसको इस पर रिसर्च चल रहा है कि लो कॉस्ट कैसे बने, और बंगलोर में काफ़ी लोग इसमें काम कर रहे हैं, तो फ्यूल सेल टेक्नोलॉजी भी कर रहे हैं। तो मुझे लगता है आने वाले इसमें हम इतने फ्रंट पर काम कर रहे हैं कि निश्चित रूप से इस देश में आज 7.5 लाख करोड़ की ऑटोमोबाइल इंडस्ट्री है, ये 15 लाख करोड़ की होगी। ये देश में सबसे ज़्यादा रोजगार देने वाली इंडस्ट्री है, दुगने रोजगार निर्माण होंगे। और देश का जो प्रदूषण है, जो दिल्ली वालों को बताने की जरूरत नहीं है कि ट्रांसपोर्ट सेक्टर का कितना है, तो ये प्रदूषण भी कम होगा। और इसके लिए काफ़ी बड़ी इन्वेस्टमेंट भी आ रही है, और ग्रीन बॉन्ड्स के द्वारा, बाकी के द्वारा, ग्रीन फंड्स। तो मुझे लगता है कि अब इलेक्ट्रिक बसेस आ गई, अभी हजारों से इलेक्ट्रिक बसेस आ रही, अब इलेक्ट्रिक बसेस, लग्जरी बसेस, कोच भी आने लगे। अब उसमें ऐसा है कि एक बस 800 किलोमीटर जाते, दिल्ली से जयपुर, दिल्ली से लुधियाना, दिल्ली से देहरादून, दिल्ली से हरिद्वार, तो बस जाएगी वहाँ, रात को वहाँ चार्ज होगी, फिर वापस आएगी। अब फास्ट चार्जिंग सिस्टम भी आ गई है। तो मुझे लगता है कि अब बड़े प्रमाण पर अवेयरनेस क्रिएट हुआ है, और 2 साल में पूरी तस्वीर बदल जाएगी, और देश के लिए बहुत महत्वपूर्ण होगा। और मैं उम्मीद करता हूँ कि ये हमारे देश की इकोनॉमी को मजबूत करेगा, रोजगार को निर्माण करेगा, प्रदूषण को कम करेगा, एक्सपोर्ट को बढ़ाएगा, और लोगों को, कंज्यूमर को फायदा कराएगा।
वेल, वेरी स्ट्रॉन्ग एंड इंसाइसिव वर्ड्स। और मैं जानता हूं कि आप हमेशा से इलेक्ट्रिक स्पेस को लेकर आप हमेशा काफी उत्साहित रहे हैं। अनुज हैज अ फ्यू क्वेश्चंस एंड आई विल टेक ओवर, एंड इफ आई मे रिक्वेस्ट यू सर जस्ट टू लुक इनटू दिस Zoom cam while speaking to Arjun. अनुज,
थैंक यू सर। अब आज आप हमारे साथ हैं, तो मैंने कहा जो इलेक्ट्रिक व्हीकल्स को लेके जो जनमानस में और हम सब लोगों के दिमाग में जो बड़े ऑब्वियस से कुछ सवाल होते हैं, तो विल बी ग्रेटफुल सर अगर आप हमारे कुछ सवालों के, बिकॉज लार्जर सेट ऑफ ऑडियंस विल बी व्यूइंग दिस। तो सर सबसे पहले आत्मनिर्भरता इन इलेक्ट्रिक व्हीकल, आपका फेवरेट टॉपिक, आपका पैशन जो है, कि आपके विजन के हिसाब से फॉर इंडिया टू बी द ईवी कैपिटल ऑफ द वर्ल्ड, what prime challenges do you see that the various stakeholders can address? क्या आपके हिसाब से वो challenges हैं सर जो इस जर्नी में आ सकते हैं?
देखिए, पहली बात तो ऐसी कि वर्ल्ड की जितने रेप्यूटेड ब्रांड्स हैं, मर्सिडीज, BMW, हुंडई, टोयोटो, ऑल आर प्रेजेंट इन इंडियन मार्केट। दूसरी बात, कल ही मेरे पास सुजुकी के MD आए थे। अब सुजुकी पूरे वर्ल्ड में मैक्सिमम कार यहाँ से एक्सपोर्ट कर रही है, क्योंकि उनका जो कॉस्टिंग है वो जापान की तुलना में और बाकी जगह की तुलना में इंडिया में सस्ता है। इसके जो कंपोनेंट्स है उसको मैन्युफैक्चरिंग करने वाले वेंडर्स हमारे यहाँ है, सब लगभग यहाँ बनाने लगे हैं। दूसरी बात, हमारी IIT, हमारी ISRO, DRDO और सब लोग इतना रिसर्च में, स्टार्टअप अनेक आ रहे हैं, इसमें काफ़ी रिसर्च हो रहा है, रोज़ के रोज़ नई नई बातें आ रही है। अभी एक कंपनी ने इलेक्ट्रिक ट्रक बना लिया है। अब मैं कंस्ट्रक्शन इक्विपमेंट में भी इलेक्ट्रिक, इथेनॉल, LNG, CNG को लाकर डीजल को कम करने की कोशिश कर रहा हूँ। हमारे जो जनरेटर सेट है वो डीजल के बजाय इथेनॉल पर चले, ये भी कोशिश हो रही है। फिर सोलर के साथ हमारे जो टेलीकम्युनिकेशन के टावर्स हैं वहाँ डीजल जनरेटर सेट लगे हुए हैं, वहाँ हम लोग एक कर सकते हैं कि सोलर के द्वारा बिजली तैयार करके वो बिजली पर हम वहाँ, हमें जनरेटर सेट की जरूरत नहीं पड़ेगी। तो अब नए नए इनोवेशन के साथ जो प्रयोग चल रहे हैं, जो सक्सेसफुल है, आपको पता होगा कि हमारी एनर्जी बास्केट में 38% कंट्रीब्यूशन सोलर का है। और एक समय गुजरात में जब मोदी जी मुख्यमंत्री थे तो 16 रुपये यूनिट बिजली की कॉस्ट आई थी। अब सोलर की कॉस्ट आ रही है 1 रुपया 90 पैसे, 2 रुपये से नीचे आ रही है कहीं। तो मुझे लगता है कि ये रिवोल्यूशन है। तो अब अभी यही, जैसे मैं आपको बता रहा हूँ कि म्यूनिसिपल कॉरपोरेशन जिनका वाटर पानी फुकट है और वहीं अगर वो सोलर पैनल डाल के इलेक्ट्रोलाइजर सस्ते हो जाएंगे तो ग्रीन हाइड्रोजन बनेगा। अब समुद्र का जो पानी है वो पानी फुकट है, और फ्लोटिंग सोलर पैनल लगा के वहीं अगर इलेक्ट्रोलाइजर लगाया तो समुद्र से हम लोग ग्रीन हाइड्रोजन बना सकते हैं। तो अब इनोवेशन इतने हो रहे हैं, चेन्नई आईआईटी ने ये किया है, तो मुझे लगता है कि आने वाले समय में बहुत बड़ा परिवर्तन होगा, और इन रिसर्च के साथ निश्चित रूप से देश आत्मनिर्भर भी बनेगा, रोजगार भी निर्माण होगा, लोगों को भी पैसा बचेगा। अभी इलेक्ट्रिक बस, एयर कंडीशन बस, ये जो डीजल की बस है, इससे उसका खर्चा 50 नहीं 60% कम हो जाएगा, तो टिकट रेट कम हो जाएंगे, तो कंज्यूमर का फायदा, ट्रैवलिंग का, मैन्युफैक्चरिंग कंपनी का फायदा, जो ऑपरेटर है उसका ही फायदा, प्रदूषण की भी कमी। तो ये विन विन सिचुएशन। देश का इंपोर्ट अगर कम होगा तो आप समझ लो कि हमारी इकोनॉमी में इससे नए रोजगार निर्माण होंगे, हमारा एक्सपोर्ट बढ़ेगा, इंडस्ट्री बढ़ेगी। और मैं तो और एक काम करता हूँ कि डाइवर्सिफिकेशन ऑफ एग्रीकल्चर टुवर्ड्स एनर्जी एंड पावर सेक्टर। जो बायो इथेनॉल बनेगा वो शुगर के जूस से बनेगा, मोलाइसिस से बनेगा, कॉर्न से बनेगा, राइस से बनेगा, फूड ग्रेन से बनेगा, बायोमास से बनेगा, तो नेचुरली हमारी एग्रो इकोनॉमी डेवलप हो जाएगी, तो वहाँ भी रोजगार निर्माण होगा। आज हम सरप्लस व्हीट है, सरप्लस राइस है, सरप्लस शुगर है, सरप्लस कॉर्न है, और इसका उपयोग अगर हमने एनर्जी के लिए किया तो उसकी प्राइस भी थोड़ी आगे बढ़ जाएगी, तो किसानों को सही दाम मिलेंगे। आज एमएसपी से, हमारी जो एमएसपी है उससे कमर्शियल प्राइस, जो मार्केट प्राइस है उससे कम है, तो वो भी स्टेबलाइज हो जाएगी। तो ये विन विन सिचुएशन में सब स्टेक होल्डर का फायदा होगा, और यही करने का हमारे सरकार का प्रयास है।
फैसिनेटिंग सर, जिस क्लैरिटी से आपने हमें बताया, मेरे हिसाब से हमें से किसी को ये डाउट नहीं है कि हम वी आर इन द राइट डायरेक्शन टू बी द ईवी कैपिटल ऑफ द वर्ल्ड। सर, ईवी से रिलेटेड एक जो बड़ा मूलभूत सा सवाल सबके दिमाग में है, या भ्रांति है, या एंग्शियसनेस कहिए, वो है इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर को लेके। सो एंड आई एम श्योर आपने शायद सैकड़ों बार इस सवाल का जवाब दिया होगा, पर हमारे लिए बड़ा जरूरी है जानना, जिससे कि ईवी बायर्स की या प्रोस्पेक्टिव ईवी बायर्स की एक एंग्जाइटी थोड़ी कम हो कि किस तरह से वी सी द इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर डेवलपिंग। सर,
देखिए, ये जो चार्जिंग सिस्टम है इसमें भी फास्ट चार्जर आ गए हैं। अभी मैं नागपुर में ईवी एसयूवी यूज़ करता हूँ, तो मैं पार्किंग में रात को मेरी चार्ज होती है। वहाँ स्कूटर अगर होगी तो आपके घर पे आप चार्जर लगा के चार्ज कर सकते हैं। पर इसके साथ हाईवे पे भी हम 350 रोड साइड एमिनिटीज़ बना रहे हैं, वहाँ भी हम लोग निश्चित रूप से अब ये जो हमारी सिस्टम में, वहाँ भी हम लोग चार्जिंग स्टेशन बना रहे हैं। और इसके साथ साथ पार्किंग जगह, वह फॉरेन में जाइए आप, हर पार्किंग में, कोई कंपनी में, कोई मॉल में, उसके पार्किंग में चार्जर्स होते हैं, तो जितना समय चार्ज करो उतना पैसा लग जाता है, तो वो चार्जिंग की व्यवस्था हो जाएगी। फिर अगर आप जैसे एक जगह, एक शहर से दूसरे से जाओगे तो रास्ते में रोड साइड एमिनिटीज़ है, वहाँ चार्जिंग होगा। आप रात को बस जा रुकेगी, वहाँ चार्जिंग होगा। तो ये कैसा है कि अंडा पहले की आमलेट पहले वाली कहानी है। तो जैसे जैसे इलेक्ट्रिक कार बढ़ेगी वैसे चार्जिंग की व्यवस्थाएं बढ़ेगी। अब इलेक्ट्रिक गाड़ी चल रही है, उसमें 140% ग्रोथ है कोविड के कार्यकाल में भी। तो आने वाले समय में जैसे बढ़ेगी वैसे चार्जिंग से, अभी मेरे घर पर अगर 4 कार अगर इलेक्ट्रिक की हो जाएगी तो घर में चार्जिंग स्टेशन शुरू हो जाएगा और सब कारें चार्ज हो जाएंगी। तो आप जैसे हमारे यहाँ गवर्नमेंट में पार्किंग प्लेस में सरकारी गाड़ियाँ खड़ी रहेगी, अभी हमने नीति आयोग में चार्जिंग किया है तो वो वहाँ खड़े खड़े उनकी चार्जिंग हो जाएगी। तो मुझे लगता है कि इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर जिस प्रकार की ज़रूरत होती है वैसे इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर खड़ा होता है। अभी इथेनॉल के पंप के लिए भारत सरकार ने परमिशन दी है। अब इथेनॉल के पंप प्रधानमंत्री जी ने पूना में 3 इनॉग्रेट किए हैं। तो मेरा विश्वास है कि निश्चित रूप से आने वाले समय में हमारे यहाँ इथेनॉल के पंप खुलेंगे, चार्जिंग स्टेशन खुलेंगे, फिर लॉन्ग टर्म के लिए एलएनजी यूज़ होगा, फिर सीएनजी के पंप खुलेंगे, और उसके साथ साथ आगे चलकर जो परली आप जलाते हैं, ये 5 टन ऑफ परली इज गिविंग 1 टन ऑफ बायो एलएनजी और बायो सीएनजी। तो इसके ऊपर भी हम लोग गैस भी हम बना पाएंगे। तो परली वेस्ट टू वेल्थ वाली कहानी है। तो मुझे लगता है कि धीरे धीरे इन सब बातों से एक बड़ा चेंज आएगा और देश में पोल्यूशन भी कम होगा और निश्चित लोगों में जागरूकता भी आएगी और स्वाभाविक रूप से इकोनॉमी भी बूस्ट होगी।
नहीं, वेरी कंफर्टिंग। इसमें तो कोई दो राय नहीं है सर कि इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर भी जैसे जैसे अडॉप्शन बढ़ेगा इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर भी बढ़ता जाएगा, और आपसे सुन के और कंफर्टिंग लगता है। सर, जो इलेक्ट्रिक व्हीकल्स की आज की तारीख में, और आपने भी अपने शुरुआती जब आप अपने विचार रखे, आपने बताया कि भाई किस तरह से इकोनॉमिक्स पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से भी एक एंड यूज़र के लिए बड़ी फ़ायदे की चीज़ है। आपने बताया कैसे बस का किराया बचेगा या 1 रुपया प्रति लीटर में प्रति किलोमीटर में गाड़ी चल जाएगी। सो ऑब्वियसली जो टू व्हीलर सेगमेंट है, जो बड़ी प्राइस सेंसिटिव है और जो बड़ी इकोनॉमिक्स पर्सपेक्टिव से सेंसिटिव सेगमेंट है, वो इसकी एक हाई एडॉप्शन सेगमेंट बन रही है आज की तारीख में। ईवी एडॉप्शन वहाँ ज़्यादा है। आपके हिसाब से सर, डू यू एग्री विद दिस दैट टू व्हीलर विल बी अ लार्जर segment where ED adoption will be faster? How do you see this evolving, sir?
देखिए, इसमें इतना रिवोल्यूशन हुआ है कि ये दिल्ली में ई रिक्शा बनाने वालों ने अब ई कार्ट बनाया, पानी पूरी चाइनीज भी उस पर मिलता है। दूसरी बात ऐसी है कि अभी 250 स्टार्टअप ने ई व्हीकल टू व्हीलर बनाना शुरू कर दिया, अलग अलग प्रकार के। और उसमें ऐसा है कि अभी एक मैंने देखा नागपुर में कि वो ऐसा था कि वो उसकी कीमत 70,000 रुपये केवल है और उसकी कैपेसिटी 70 किलोमीटर चलती है और स्पीड उसकी 45 किलोमीटर से ज़्यादा नहीं है। तो जैसे बड़े बड़े शहरों में गाड़ी ज़्यादा स्पीड नहीं लेती, तो उसकी बैटरी सस्ती है। तो लोग अभी जैसे आप कोई ये जो होटल से अलग अलग प्रकार की चीज़ें मंगाते हैं, तो स्कूटर पे आते, पिज़्ज़ा और ये सब पहुंचाने के लिए सब इलेक्ट्रिक पे आ गया। अभी अमेजोन ने अपना फ्लीट पूरा इलेक्ट्रिक कर लिया। अब धीरे धीरे सब लोग अपने पूरे फ्लीट को इलेक्ट्रिक पे कन्वर्ट कर रहे हैं। तो ये आने वाले समय में निश्चित रूप से इसमें खूब स्टार्टअप आ रहे हैं। फिर भी एक अच्छी बात है कि बजाज, टीवीएस और हीरो जितना टू व्हीलर प्रोडक्शन करती है अभी, वो 50% एक्सपोर्ट कर रही है। अब उनका ये पेट्रोल की गाड़ी है, पर अब धीरे धीरे उनकी इलेक्ट्रिक गाड़ियाँ भी वर्ल्ड में एक्सपोर्ट होगी और हमारा एक्सपोर्ट इसमें काफ़ी बढ़ेगा और हमारी इकोनॉमी काफ़ी बूस्ट होगी, ऐसा मुझे विश्वास है। और इसमें निश्चित रूप से मैं ये मानता हूँ कि जो नए नए सिटी में ई बाइसिकल भी आई है, अभी कई वो चला रहे लोग इलेक्ट्रिक पर। अभी ये जो हीरो वाले, इन्होंने लंदन में स्पेशल डिज़ाइन करके लुधियाना में एक फैक्ट्री डाली है। 3 लाख करोड़ का इसका कारोबार है, उसमें 2.5 लाख करोड़ चाइना का शेयर था। पर आने वाले समय में ई बाइक, ई साइकिल में हम भी 1 आध लाख करोड़ का हमारा एक्सपोर्ट होगा। जो जर्मनी और यूके में अच्छी बाइसिकल वो इंडिया से जाएगी, स्कूटर्स में भी हमारी जाएगी। तो मुझे लगता है कि एक प्रकार से निश्चित रूप से ये होगा। फिर स्क्रैप ये जो स्वैपिंग है बैटरी का, इसके ऊपर भी कि ऑटो रिक्शा चलाए, फिर एक जगह कहीं तो भी जाकर अपनी पुरानी बैटरी चार्ज पर लगाए, उस दूसरी बैटरी लगा ले, जैसे गैस सिलेंडर हम बदलते हैं। तो नई नई बातें, नया नया मैकेनिज्म आ रहा है और इन सब के कारण आने वाले समय में काफ़ी बदल होगा और रिवोल्यूशन होगा और निश्चित रूप से सभी स्टेक होल्डर इसका फ़ायदा करेंगे। और इसमें अलग अलग कैपेसिटी की भी बन रही है और इसमें 250 स्टार्टअप है और उन्होंने कॉस्ट भी कम कर दी है, कंपटीशन भी है। तो धीरे धीरे ये जो स्टार्टअप है, ये यंग टैलेंटेड इंजीनियरिंग मैन पावर जो भारत की स्ट्रेंथ है, ये लोग जो इसमें संशोधन कर रहे हैं, रिसर्च कर रहे हैं, इसरो, DRDO, IITs, इंजीनियरिंग कॉलेजेस और हमारे बड़े बड़े टैलेंटेड लड़के नए जो कुछ कर रहे हैं, इससे आने वाले समय में हम वर्ल्ड में लीडर बनेंगे और पूरी तरह इलेक्ट्रिक में हमारा नंबर 1 पर स्थान होगा। और मैं विश्वास से आपको बताता हूँ कि मैं देख रहा हूँ कि 15 लाख करोड़ की इंडस्ट्री 5 साल में बनेगी और वी विल बी नंबर 1 इन द वर्ल्ड एज फार एज ऑटोमोबाइल मैन्युफैक्चरिंग सेक्टर इज कंसर्न। ये मैं भविष्यवाणी विश्वास के साथ आपको बता रहा हूँ कि हम नंबर 1 होंगे।
सर, इसमें कोई दो राय नहीं है और ये तो आपके विचारों से और जिस तरह से आई मस्ट से वो सुन के ना वन गेट्स गूज पिंपल्स, वो रोंगटे खड़े हो जाते हैं जिस क्लैरिटी से और जिस पैशन से आप इलेक्ट्रिक व्हीकल्स का फ्यूचर हम सबको दिखा रहे हैं। सो भारत, इसमें कोई किसी तरह का संदेह ही नहीं है कि हम इलेक्ट्रिक व्हीकल कैपिटल ऑफ द वर्ल्ड बनेंगे, हम लार्जेस्ट मैन्युफैक्चरर बनेंगे और एक क्रांति आ गई है इस डायरेक्शन में। सर, आपसे एक और सवाल मैं पूछना चाहूँगा और इंश्योरेंस इंडस्ट्री से हूँ तो उससे रिलेटेड एक सवाल ज़रूर मैं आपसे पूछूंगा कि आज इलेक्ट्रिक व्हीकल्स का इंश्योरेंस प्रीमियम थोड़ा ज़्यादा है क्योंकि उसकी रिपेयर कॉस्ट थोड़ी ज़्यादा है, स्केल थोड़ा कम है, अभी रिपेयर कॉस्ट थोड़ी ज़्यादा है। ऑल्दो हमारे जो इंश्योरेंस रेगुलेटर हैं IRDAI, उन्होंने they've already approved there is already a 15% subsidy on the third party liability for electric vehicles. आपके हिसाब से सर और क्या इनिशिएटिव्स इंडस्ट्री ले सकती है अक्रॉस द वैल्यू चेन टू लोअर द इंश्योरेंस कॉस्ट, जिससे और इसको अल्टीमेट बायर को, ग्राहकों को और फायदा मिले और पुश मिले इलेक्ट्रिक व्हीकल्स को? सर
देखिए, जैसे जैसे ई व्हीकल की संख्या बढ़ती जाएगी और कॉम्पिटिटिवनेस आएगा तो इंश्योरेंस की कॉस्ट भी कम होगी। क्या है, इकोनॉमिक्स ऑफ स्केल, कॉस्ट विल ऑटोमेटिकली कम डाउन, ये एक इम्पॉर्टेंट चीज़ है जब स्केल बढ़ेगा। दूसरी बात, लिथियम बैटरी की कॉस्ट कम होगी, जो मैंने कहा $100 तक आएगी। जीरो रजिस्ट्रेंस चार्जेस फॉर ईवी, ये हमने पॉलिसी बनाई है जिससे पैसा बचेगा। 5% GST ये ऑलरेडी हमने कर दिया ईवी व्हीकल पर, और प्लस PLI बेनिफिट है, तो नेचुरली उससे स्केल में का फायदा होगा। स्क्रैपिंग पॉलिसी में मटेरियल जो रिसाइकलिंग करके सस्ता मिलेगा। अब कॉपर हम इंपोर्ट कर रहे हैं, हम लोग एल्यूमिनियम इंपोर्ट कर रहे हैं। अब कॉपर, एल्यूमिनियम, स्टील, रबर, प्लास्टिक सब रिसाइकलिंग होगा तो कॉस्ट कम हो जाएगी। तो स्क्रैपिंग पॉलिसी से लिथियम आयन भी मिलेगा, मैग्नेट भी मिलेगा, काफ़ी फायदा होगा। और उसके साथ साथ ऑल रिलैक्सेशन व्हील अल्टीमेटली जितना सेविंग है उसी के तरफ जाते हैं। तो बेनिफिट भी, जैसे मैंने कहा कि पेट्रोल के जाने के लिए 10 रुपये, डीजल के जाने के लिए 7 रुपये, इथेनॉल को जाने के लिए 3 से 4 रुपये, और इलेक्ट्रिक में जाने के लिए 1 रुपया। तो आपको कहने की ज़रूरत ही नहीं होगी। आप सब लोग, आपके कंपनी में आने वाले 2 साल के अंदर हर व्यक्ति ई व्हीकल पे आएगा और ई व्हीकल पे जाएगा, और जो सैलरी जिसको पैकेज मिलता है वो 10 से 12 हज़ार, 12 से 15 हज़ार रुपये महीने की बचत करेगा। तो ये उसकी बचत के सिवा वो प्रदूषण कम करेगा, क्योंकि ना साउंड पोल्यूशन है ई व्हीकल में, ना एयर पोल्यूशन है। तो वो दिल्ली में ये प्रॉब्लम जब ये बढ़ता जाएगा बसेस और सब, तो फिर आगे 2 साल की दिल्ली होगी जो प्रदूषण से मुक्त होगी, तो एक बहुत बड़ा रिलीफ मिल जाएगा।
अनुज, आई गेट यू टू थैंक द मिनिस्टर इन अ शॉर्ट व्हाइल फ्रॉम नाउ। कुछ सवाल सर, मैं चूंकि कॉर्पोरेट जगत को आप बड़े नज़दीक से देखते हैं, मैं आपकी बातें सुन रहा था, मेरे दिमाग में जो एक प्रश्न आया सर, वो ये कि आप खुद ग्रामीण क्षेत्रों से आप इतना वाकिफ हैं, ये जो इलेक्ट्रिक व्हीकल, इलेक्ट्रिक एनर्जी की जो स्पेस है, ये भारत के ग्रामीण क्षेत्र में किस प्रकार का बदलाव ला सकती है?
देखिए, अभी आप समझ लो कि ऑलरेडी ग्रामीण क्षेत्र में जैसे कोल्ड स्टोरेज है, वो सोलर एनर्जी बेस बन गए छोटे छोटे, तो एकदम रिवोल्यूशन हो गया। पोटैटो रखने के लिए कोल्ड स्टोरेज सोलर पे चलता है, क्योंकि बाहर से लेते तो कमर्शियल बिजली का दर 10 रुपये 11 रुपये यूनिट है, और सोलर पर कोल्ड स्टोरेज चलने लगा। तो टेक्नोलॉजी का उपयोग ग्रामीण में भी हो रहा है। अब किसान अपने 300 किलो सब्जी मार्केट में ले जाता है, वो पेट्रोल डीजल में ले जाता है तो उसको खर्चा 200 रुपये है।
तो ट्रैक्टर इलेक्ट्रिक व्हीकल से चलेगा?
अभी मैं आपको बता रहा हूँ, मैं आने वाले कुछ दिनों में इलेक्ट्रिक का ट्रैक्टर लॉन्च कर रहा हूँ।
इलेक्ट्रिक ट्रैक्टर आप लॉन्च करने?
हाँ, ऑलरेडी मैं नाम नहीं लेता, मेरे को इन्विटेशन मिल गया, थोड़े से उसके टेस्टिंग चल रही है, मैं आ जाऊँ। दूसरा, मैंने अपना खुद का ट्रैक्टर बायो CNG पे कन्वर्ट किया, तो 1 लाख से 1.25 लाख रुपए साल की बचत है। तो CNG में कन्वर्ट करने में 1.25 लाख, इलेक्ट्रिक में कन्वर्ट करने में 2 लाख की बचत है। अगर ये लिथियम आयन बैटरी जब इसका छोटा होगा, या जिंक आयन, एल्यूमिनियम आयन, कॉपर आयन, ये अगर आएगा और इंडिया में ये बैटरी कॉस्ट, तो ट्रैक्टर भी सस्ता हो जाएगा।
लेकिन आपने सर अभी बात की चार्जिंग स्टेशंस की, जो अनुज जी बात कर रहे थे, आपने कहा कि इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर बन जाएगा, बट आपको नहीं लगता सर कि बिजली की खपत, वेयर विल द इलेक्ट्रिसिटी कम फ्रॉम? मतलब चार्जिंग कितना है हमारे पास, उतना इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर?
देखो, पहली बात तो हमारे देश में बिजली अभी सरप्लस है, और हम 38% बिजली सोलर तैयार करते हैं। विंड पावर, हाइड्रो पावर, सोलर पावर, और सबसे इम्पोर्टेंट यानी बायोमास से ग्रीन पावर। तो हमको ग्रीन पावर बढ़ाना है, और जो कोल से पावर, थर्मल पावर होती है, वो स्वाभाविक रूप से कोयला जलाने से प्रदूषण बढ़ता है। तो धीरे धीरे हम लोग जो सोलर पावर की तरफ बढ़ रहे हैं, और जो हमारा टारगेट है वो होगा। दूसरा, मैं सिंपल चीज़ बताता हूँ कि जैसे आपका घर है, रूफ टॉप पर आपने सोलर लगा दिया, तो आपके घर में आपकी गाड़ी वही चार्ज होगी, घर में लाइट आपको। मैं आपको एक अच्छा उदाहरण बताता हूँ। मैंने नागपुर में एक महानगर पालिका का ऑडिटोरियम बनाया सुरेश भट्ट के नाम से, 2200 की कैपेसिटी है, और एयर कंडीशन है। तो मुझे मेयर और कमिश्नर का इसका रेट 80,000 रुपये घंटा होगा, क्योंकि एयर कंडीशन है। तो मैंने कहा ये क्या फ़ायदा है फिर बना के, कौन गरीब लोग लेंगे, कैसे करेंगे? फिर मैंने कहा कि नहीं, इसके करो, इसके ऊपर पूरा सोलर लगा दो। तो वो सभागृह में हमने सोलर लगा दिया, और सभागृह की अभी उसके कारण 80 कार्यक्रमों की बिजली मुफ्त मिल गई सोलर की। और अब नीचे में हमने 800 गाड़ियों का पार्किंग है, और सोलर चार्जिंग कर दिया। तो चार्जिंग करके पैसा मिलना भी कारपोरेट को शुरू होगा, और उधर वो ऊपर में वो भी कीमत कम हो गई। तो धीरे धीरे रूफटॉप कोई गोडाउन है, कोई बिल्डिंग है, उसके ऊपर होगा। अभी जैसे आप ये ग्लास लगाते खिड़कियों में, अब इसको एक फिल्म लगती है, वो उससे चार्जिंग होने लगा सोलर का। फर्क कुछ नहीं पड़ता, जैसे वो गाड़ी को फिल्म लगती थी तो उससे चार्जिंग हो रहा। तो टेक्नोलॉजी इतनी बदल रही है कब अभी किसानों को मैं कहता हूं अन्नदाता, अब हमें किसानों को ऊर्जादाता बनाना है।
ऊर्जादाता, ये लगी आपने, चलिए आपने नया कैंपेन भी आपने बताया। बट लास्ट क्वेश्चन सर, आपने इतनी बात कही, आपने बायोफ्यूल, आपने ग्रीन शब्द का प्रयोग देखिए था कि हम सब दिल्ली में रहते हैं, देखिए हम लोग किस प्रकार की हवा में सांस हम लोग कैसे ले रहे हैं सर। ये ग्रीन फोकस और ये प्रदूषण, ये कैसे साथ में कैसे चलेगा सर?
देखिए हमारा प्रदूषण के कारण क्या है हमको समझने होंगे। जैसे ट्रांसपोर्ट सेक्टर का दिल्ली में 22% पोल्यूशन में कंट्रीब्यूशन है। अगर ट्रांसपोर्ट सेक्टर अगर इथेनॉल पे आ गया, इलेक्ट्रिक पर आ गया, पेट्रोल डीजल नहीं के जनरेटर सेट इथेनॉल पे आ गए, प्रदूषण कम हो जाएगा।
होलिस्टिक सोल्यूशन चाहिए आपको।
दूसरी बात, अभी परली जलाते हैं, अब परली से बिजली तैयार होती, परली से सीएनजी तैयार होता, तो अगर वही काम शुरू हो जाएगा, परली को वैल्यू क्रिएट हो जाएगी, कोई परली बेचेगा नहीं। तो मैं ये कहूंगा कि उससे सीएनजी बनेगा तो दिल्ली में हमको गैस इंपोर्ट करने की जरूरत नहीं पड़ेगी, किसान तैयार कर। मतलब ऑलरेडी लुधियाना में एक प्लांट लग गया है।
एडवर्सिटी को अपॉर्चुनिटी में कन्वर्ट किया जाए, जो पराली में भी एडवर्सिटी है।
मैं आपको एक बात बताता हूँ, नो वन इज बेस्ट, इट इज डिपेंडिंग अपॉन द लीडरशिप, इट इज डिपेंडिंग अपॉन द विजन दैट यू कैन मेक वेस्ट टू वेल्थ।
क्या बात है।
टू क्रिएट वेल्थ, इससे लिए वेस्ट को अच्छी टेक्नोलॉजी, अच्छी विजन और अच्छी लीडरशिप होगी तो नो वन इज वेस्ट। और इसी में यही मैं कह रहा हूं कि यही भविष्य है। और नॉलेज ये पावर है। इनोवेशन, एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप, साइंस, टेक्नोलॉजी, रिसर्च, स्किल एंड सक्सेसफुल प्रैक्टिसेस, वी नेम इट एज ए नॉलेज, and conversion of knowledge into wealth is the future for the country, and conversion of waste into wealth is the future for the country. यही बात मैं आग्रह से कहते रहता हूँ।
Always a pleasure speak to you sir. बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद आपका। अनुज, you want to thank the minister?
थैंक यू वेरी मच माननीय मंत्री जी। हमारी तरफ से एक छोटा सा इनिशिएटिव था इलेक्ट्रिक व्हीकल्स को लेके, जनमानस तक इलेक्ट्रिक व्हीकल्स के पोटेंशियल बायर्स की जो एंग्जाइटी है, जो एक छोटा सा रहता है। मैं भी जब अपने लिए इलेक्ट्रिक गाड़ी खरीद रहा था तो मेरे दिमाग में भी एक सवाल आया था कि मैं गाड़ी तो ले लूंगा लेकिन इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर का क्या करूंगा, बैटरी रिप्लेसमेंट कॉस्ट का क्या करूंगा। सो हमारा बहुत बहुत सौभाग्य है माननीय मंत्री जी दैट आप हमारे आज साथ आए, एंड देयर इज नथिंग बेटर देन हियरिंग इट straight from the person who's leading this entire initiative. You are the flag bearer, sir. You are the one जिनके नेतृत्व में हमें, और मैं फिर रिपीट करता हूँ, हमें वर्ल्ड की ईवी कैपिटल बनना है। सो आपका बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद मंत्री जी, आपने अपने बिजी शेड्यूल से हमारे लिए समय निकाला, और हमारे सारे व्यूअर्स आई एम श्योर वुड हैव गेन्ड ट्रिमेंडस नॉलेज, और आपकी जो क्लैरिटी ऑफ थॉट्स है उससे लोगों की एंग्जाइटी बहुत हद तक खत्म हुई होगी, ऐसा मेरा मानना है। धन्यवाद। थैंक यू वेरी मच फॉर बीइंग विद अस सर।
नमस्कार। नमस्कार।
Thank you very much. What an opportunity to speak with the man himself, Shri Gadkari, and understand. He made a lot of predictions today. 15 lakh crore ki industry, number one honge hum. And of course, a special mention for Hero. Now, who's going to make this happen? Of course, this will happen, can't happen without the stakeholders, the carriers of the business, and the entire ecosystem of electric mobility in this country. I am absolutely privileged to welcome three wonderful gentlemen. Mr. Naveen Munjal, who will be a part of a conversation now with us on electric as a future of mobility. Why is there a need to adopt electric vehicles, and more? Mr. Naveen Munjal, who's the managing director of Hero Electric Vehicles, a very warm welcome. Ramesh Dorairajan, who's the head of electric vehicles commercial for Tata Motors. Such a wonderful opportunity again for us to have a conversation along with Ramesh and understand how the ecosystem is developing in his part of the business. And of course, our very own Shri Ritesh Kumarji, who's the Managing Director and CEO of Hdfc Ergo, a wonderful thought leader there, joining two wonderful harbingers of the industry. The conversation will be led by none other than Vineet Malhotra, an award-winning journalist and the prime time anchor and consulting editor at NewsX. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for being here. The stage is yours.
Thank you very much, Deepshika. Hello, everyone. My name is Vineet. Deepshika has already introduced me, and a word of appreciation for Speakin. They've always been very categorical about what they want, and when it comes to the realm of leadership they've always shown the path. So Deepshika, congratulations once again for this wonderful initiative, and keep going at it. I'm going to introduce our panelists once again for the sake of all those people who are watching, starting with Mr. Naveen Munjal, who is the Managing Director of Hero Electric Vehicles Private Limited, a part of the Hero Eco Group. As an entrepreneur, his leadership and vision is widely recognized in shaping the Indian electric two-wheeler industry globally. He has built the Hero Electric brand into a leading manufacturer and a market leader in the electric vehicle two-wheeler market in India. Welcome to this conversation, Mr. Munjal. Mr. Ramesh Durrairajan is also here with us. Mr. Durrairajan is the head of electric vehicles commercial for Tata Motors. With over 4 decades of experience in automotive and the financial sector, he is spearheading Tata's mission of EV adoption through breakthrough innovation across electric vehicles and changing the infrastructure of how EVs are going to be charged as well. That is also something that the minister spoke of. Ritesh Kumar is the Managing Director and CEO of Hdfc Ergo. He has 25 years of experience in the financial services industry across both banking and insurance. He's at the helm of Hdfc Ergo's vision of driving a greener tomorrow through various initiatives across the ecosystem. A very warm welcome to all of you. I hope I'm audible and loud and clear. And we are going to start the conversation now. A very important conversation. What we heard from the minister has also busted a lot of myths. The industry is obviously going to belong to India because of the kind of opportunities and with the kind of startups, 250 to be exact by the minister. This is an area which definitely is going to be awaited by especially people who live in North India, where pollution is such a pandemic now. Mr. Durrairajan, I'm going to start by asking you a question. We are going to firstly focus on the Indian EV market and what's the potential there. Car manufacturing is tackling the shift. And the question here is, will they be able to meet the demand for electric vehicles? And what is the impact of newcomers on the EV market around the world? What kind of a dent, no pun intended, are they going to make?
Good evening, and thank you for inviting me. Pleasure to be part of this panel. India's electric vehicle market is expected to touch around $150 billion by 2030, according to various reports. And we also heard the minister say about what his aspiration is. This market currently, we must understand, is in its infancy, and it's estimated to grow at a compounded annual growth rate of 90% between 21 and 2030. And presently, the EV sales accounts for about 1.3% of the total EV vehicle sales in India, but this is expected to grow rapidly as we move forward. And India's shift to shared electric and connected mobility could help the country save nearly close to about 1 gigaton of carbon dioxide emission by 2030. The sales in EV are expected to, as I said, increase exponentially in the coming days. With the only certainty over the future prices of diesel and oil prices being that they're unlikely to reduce soon, more choices being made available to the consumer in terms of electric vehicles and initiatives by the state and central governments are only helping us in speeding up the things. I'd also like to dwell something upon the EV technology evolution in India, which requires a sizable investment in R&D and product development. And this both on the automobile platform and the battery and the charging technology. The collecting investment done by the two-wheeler, three-wheeler, four-wheeler EV component makers and the last-mile delivery company was recorded at close to 25,000 crores between January and July 21. And now the demand incentives being provided under FAME 2 by the central government, the launch of the state policies, rising fuel prices, as I said, tightening emission laws, and increasing awareness of the green environment are few factors which is making the sector very, very attractive to large automobile players and the financial investors. There's a general consensus which is now emanating that a tipping point is approaching where the mass adoption will become unavoidable. And this is mainly because the battery cost will come down as we move forward. There's a positive pressure being exerted by the regulators, and there are government subsidies, the central government subsidy, and many of the state governments have also been rolling out the subsidies. As with passenger cars, the upfront price tag for a customer is slightly higher for a conventional one, with batteries as the largest cost component. Now, factoring in total cost of ownership over a vehicle's life, including fuel and maintenance costs, can often turn the table. So what I wanted to tell you is that probably the entry cost could be slightly higher. The customer's equity could be slightly higher as he enters. But given that the cost of maintenance is quite low, etc., I think this stands very fair in terms of competition with the ICE vehicles. If you have to just look at the worldwide scenario, which is part of the question, a number of manufacturers now have raised the bar to go beyond the previous announcement related to EVs, with an outlook beyond 2025. With that, more than 10 of the largest OEMs worldwide have declared electrification targets for 2030 and beyond. Significantly, some of the OEMs plan to reconfigure their entire product lines to produce only electric vehicles in the first trimester of 2021. And these announcements included, which the announcements were made, that Volvo, people like Volvo, Ford, etc., would go complete electric by 2030. In short, I feel that we are, as I said, at the tipping point. I feel that this is the right time to take the next leap. And from Tata Motors, I can assure you that we will be in the forefront of making this happen.
Right, absolutely. The initial hesitation is definitely going to wither away as soon as the price of the lithium batteries is going to come down. Mr. Munjal, we're still going to continue to talk about the Indian EV market, and it has a peculiarity. And the peculiarity is that the parameters of the electronic vehicles for the emerging markets in India are different from the rest of the world. India is unique in certain way. How do you see that panning out for electric vehicle markets?
Good evening. It's a pleasure being here today. Thank you for having me. So, before I get into that, I just want to actually, put some things in perspective to talk about when you look at electric vehicles and when you read any international reports, effectively what you're reading about is more about cars, not so much about two-wheelers. But when we look at a market like India, where 80% of the vehicles on the road are actually two-wheelers, that's going to be the low-hanging fruit. Those are going to be the vehicles which are actually going to convert the fastest because of price parity, the distance being covered, charging infrastructure, etc. There are different requirements for two-wheelers. So we've got to divide it up into two-wheelers, three-wheelers, cars, public transport, commercial vehicles. All will take off at a different time. So the same rule cannot apply to all. You'll have to have different regulations, different rules, and a different push and a pull for all of these categories. Now, what we believe is going to be the case is going to be that two-wheelers will actually form the base of that pyramid, basis which everything else is going to make then commercial sense, because things like batteries, for example, you need a very, very large volume of batteries to come in, and that's going to come in out of the two-wheelers. Public transport, of course, is going to be a very, very important factor when you have to move all these people. But that is where the basis is going to be formed. Now, India is a different market, is a unique market in its own sense. That said, when we compare India as against different parts of the world, so we've got China, of course, which is the market leader in the electric vehicle space, but they had a different approach to it. The country, when they went into electrification, it began with a stick and a carrot approach. In a lot of cities, you were not allowed to sell IC engine vehicles. Infrastructure was created, and a lot of the carrots were given in terms of the subsidies, etc. Then you've got Europe, which works in a different manner. You've got the US, and then you've got parts of Asia, which work in a different manner. So in India, we work in a very, very different manner. Now, I'm glad to say that, as Mr. Dorairajan was also saying, that our policies are very strong now. So there is clear intent by the government. So first and foremost is we've dug our stake in the ground to say that by 2070, we as a country want to be net zero. So when you start looking at it backwards from there, when you start doing the calculations, actually the automotive conversion has to happen much faster. And in that, the two-wheeler conversion has to happen even faster than that. So literally, we've got to be working round the clock right now, which we're already doing. Then, besides that, we've now got a strong central policy which is in place, which is the FAME 2 policy. Now, that policy was enhanced in June of this year and becomes a very, very interesting policy. Then we've got numerous state policies. A large part of them are still linked to manufacturing in those states, but there are some states which also have demand-led policies. So you create demand in that state and you will get subsidies. And that's a very, very strong push. So right now, even though we are coming in a little late at a global level, there is a lot of, we're going to actually leapfrog technologies. Now, we as a company have been in this space in the last 14, 15 years, and we've seen tremendous amount of shift in the technology. We've seen from lead acid, we've gone through 3 generations of lithium-ion batteries ourselves, and now we've got a strong PLI which is in place for the batteries, which is the ACC battery manufacturing, and that's something which is going to actually catapult battery manufacturing in India. There were some reports about 20 odd companies applying for this policy. Now, even if a few of them actually eventually go in and invest into the battery manufacturing in India, and as the world minister was also saying, the battery prices in India are going to be dramatically lower than what we currently have. So the challenge initially was the initial purchase price. That has come down because of the policies. The other factor was to do with the TCO. The TCO gap was always there. The total cost of ownership between an IC engine vehicle and an electric vehicle was already there. So IC was far more expensive to operate and run, as the minister was saying, than an electric vehicle. That gap has widened substantially on account of the petrol price that we've got around the country, which is in excess of 100 rupees. So electric vehicles have become far cheaper to own. They have been far cheaper to buy, and you're doing it for the environment. So when we look at it from an environmental perspective, air perspective, and economics, they are now beginning to make far better sense what they ever have. And so we are now on a growth path where we think, where we believe, and where we are confident that there is no looking back. This market is only going to explode from here on.
Absolutely. And Mr. Munjal, you're right about the fact that the government's intention is absolutely vivid and clear. The policy is in place. Mr. Kumar, let's talk about India's electrification policy as well. What are your thoughts on India's one nation, one policy approach for vehicle electrification? Well, the minister already spoke about the impediments, but also let's talk about the potential here.
If one was to look at the larger ecosystem, Vineet, what is very, very clear is that the larger ecosystem sort of has to keep or work in tandem with what's happening to the main class. And I have very, very little doubt in mind that, this is something which is going to progress. I was looking at some reports and they talked of the fact that by 2030, what is right now, say, 1.5% market share on two-wheelers could move to as high as 80% on electric sort of two-wheelers, or what is right now 0.5 on the passenger cars could be in a vicinity of 30% by 2030. Now, all of this is obviously being supported by a huge concern around, the environment. Whether it is the normal pollution or, as the minister mentioned, in terms of the noise pollution. Also in terms of the social and the economic impact that it has. Now, if this is something which is going to happen, let's look at, say, for instance, what's going to happen on the financing side. Today, as per my understanding, the total vehicle financing market is roughly about to the order of about 4.5 to 5 lakh crores. Now, by 2030, the electric vehicle financing market by itself would be of this order. If these are the kind of numbers that sort of we progress with. We also saw very, very recently Niti Aayog actually requesting RBI to actually sort of look at categorizing electric vehicle financing as a priority sector lending. Now, that's something which then goes and totally sort of changes the landscape. From an insurance perspective, which the industry that I am a part of, we've clearly seen our insurance regulator come in and say that on third-party electric vehicles should be given a 15% discount. So there is a lot of, both Mr. Munjal and Mr. Dorairajan mentioned, there's a lot of political impetus around this. And then all of this actually sort of goes out very, very clearly, directionally, sort of in terms of a huge impetus to the sector.
Absolutely. That's the correct word to use, actually. The impetus has to be strong. Let's talk about the infrastructure. The minister also mentioned 350 pumps along a number of highways which are coming up in the next few years. But, we still have to analyze and assess whether that's going to be enough or not, considering the kind of volumes that are also predicted in the next 5 years. Mr. Munjal, last mile mobility has also been a concern. How large a role would, last mile connectivity or ecosystem play in increasing the adoption towards electric vehicles? Is that something which is going to be a deciding factor?
Not necessarily a deciding factor. So what we've done as a company is in the absence of, actually technically, if you step back, any charger that we've got, any charging point that we've got is a charging point for electric two-wheelers. And I'm talking about the city speed category. I'm talking about the majority of the vehicles being sold on the road today. That said, there is range anxiety issues, of course, there in the minds of the customer. So what we did actually is, first and foremost, we understand that the vehicles are going to be charged at home and not so much on a day-to-day basis outside. So that is going to be more topping up that happens outside. in order for our people to be able to charge the vehicles at home, we don't really have charging infrastructure in a lot of cities, where you're living in a block of apartments, for example. Where do you really charge your vehicles? So what we've done across our entire product range is we've made our batteries portable, which you can take up to your apartment, charge it, plug it back into the vehicle, and off you go again. Now, if you need to charge, top up somewhere, we've been installing a charging infrastructure also. So these are things which actually give confidence to the customer more than anything else. A lot of customers don't really use it because the average usage that we've got now, our vehicles are now priced at a price point which is cheaper than that of a 100cc to IC engine vehicle. And at the same time, so 65 to 70,000 rupee price point, 45 kilometer speed, and giving you a range of about 140 kilometers on that, which is more than adequate for a regular two-wheeler user. So infrastructure is important more to give confidence to customers that should I come to a standstill, what do I really do? So that is a very, very critical factor. The other one is that last mile connectivity is going to play a very important role. As we're already seeing, when you look at it from an e-vehicle or e-auto perspective, that people, when they come in either using public transport or other forms of transport, how do they really do the last mile commute? And that is where actually electric vehicles are going to play a role. Electric two-wheelers will play an important role, whether in an urban environment, in a rural environment, and we are seeing a growth happening across all metros. We are seeing it in tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 cities, and also down to rural, where people have much more predictable distances that they cover, and they are looking at this as a very, very viable means of transport.
All right, absolutely, completely concur with you, Mr. Dharai Rajan. Infrastructure development, how crucial a pertinent role is that going to play in terms of the demand and the interest towards electric vehicles, and what steps has Tata Motors taken to help in the development of a complete infrastructure for EVs to develop on, to thrive on?
So at Tata Motors, we are driving growth for these emerging segments and have developed a comprehensive approach, I must tell you, to drive electrification in the country. If I have to list a few, it would be like we are developing an aspirational yet an accessible range of EV products to create excitement. Presently, we are piggybacking on the existing ICE vehicle infrastructure to design, develop, manufacture, and distribute electric vehicles. We're also looking at leveraging partnerships and new business models to build a full EV ecosystem, which includes charging solutions, financing, localization, and innovative retail formats. Apart from this, we are also delivering a compelling value proposition that breaks barriers at specific targeted micro markets that we have shortlisted. And this is one part of it. On the other part, as far as the product intervention and the strategy that's concerned, and that plays a very critical role in this, is that we entered the market, and as far as Tata Motors is concerned, in the fleet segment with the Tigor electric vehicle. And then we have expanded it to the personal segment with the Nexon and the Tigor EV to make EVs more aspirational, as I said. And in order to achieve a significant adoption of EVs in India, it was always essential to address the personal segment, which, as per our reading and which is also talked about by analysts, is about 7 to 8% larger than the fleet segment. In addition to this, we also ensured that our product is safe using the right technology mix and suitable for the Indian road conditions. With the product marketing and service interventions, we have been able to address some myths about EVs, which existed, like high cost, low speed, low range vehicles, inferior performance vis-a-vis the ICE vehicle. Overall, what we have done is that we have not attacked one thing in particular. Obviously, as Mr. Munjal said, range has always been a concern and a cause of anxiety. We are working very closely within the group to ensure that more and more charging stations are put up across. We are simultaneously looking at how do we get more and more localization done. We are looking at how do we develop unique financial solutions for our fleet customers, etc. So all in all, I think Tata Motors is playing a very critical and important role. And we feel that these would be the steps that would be required to make EVs more and more popular in this country.
Absolutely. And that is definitely the way forward. And the minister also very plainly said that infrastructure development has to go hand in hand with the technology of EVs. Mr. Munjal, let's talk about innovation in the EV sector as well. Do you feel that there are ways to increase profitability for companies by deploying telematics and connected solutions when it comes to electric vehicles?
See, telematics is going to play a very important role going forward, and it's already playing a very important role when we look at the B2B segment, when you look at deliveries, when you look at shared mobility, when you look at those segments, there companies actually and individuals and people are realizing the importance of telematics and IoT and how do you really capture data. Are we really utilizing that data well in a fashion which is generating any income for us at this point? We are not really. So from a consumer perspective, what they're looking at is more robustness of the vehicle, some basic functionality of the telematics, but not going overboard in terms of the technology that is deployed on the vehicles, because again, the customers right now are not seeing benefit to that extent in the two-wheeler segment. Us as companies, it's important for us to have it because we are able to capture that data and utilize the data for, predicting how the battery is going to behave and how the vehicles are going to behave over a period of time. So that's data capturing for us. But we haven't really, at this point of time, started commercializing that data at this as of now. As we get more and more vehicles on the road, as we get more and more AI, which is playing an important role in this whole segment, as that gets more deeply penetrated, that is where data is actually going to start getting utilized. Right now, the total number of vehicles on the road, even when you look at two-wheelers, is from our perspective is over 425,000 vehicles on the road over a period of time. So it's not it is large from an electric perspective, but it's not very large when you look at it from an automotive perspective. So that data is eventually going to start to play an important role. At this point, it's just more gathering of data to see how we're going to use it.
Right, and you're right about that. The volume could be derivative of the demand, and the demand is definitely going to be derivative of the kind of prices and costs which are attached to EVs at this point in time. Mr. Rajan, let's also talk about the cell and battery manufacturing paradigm here as well. Do you feel that India is ready to support the electric vehicle demand with the current state of battery manufacturing that we have?
Yeah, I do feel that cell and battery pack manufacturing is definitely a key in the vision of Make in India for electrical components. The battery pack on its own accounts for about 35% of the vehicle cost. Now, excluding the cells and other components of the battery pack, including the cooling system, the enclosures, the BMS, etc., are already under localization, as there is a pre-existing expertise that exists in these domains in India. Also, we must understand that the government has launched Advanced Chemistry Cell PLI scheme to encourage local development cells in India, and these will be critical as we move forward for localization of cells, which is 70% of the pack cost and is the key to secure and have an efficient cell supply chain. So I would say that we are on track, and I think as we move forward with the Make in India campaign, etc., gaining more and more ground, this is very much possible.
Right, and Mr. Kumar, this is obviously an emerging market, and along with this, there are going to be peripheral emerging scenarios as well. Business models, so to speak, in juxtaposition to this development in electric vehicles. What is your take on the emerging business models in the EV space, not just in manufacturing, but in the ecosystem as well? Insurance and financing and what all.
So as I was mentioning sort of a little while back, see, whenever the core product develops, the ecosystem sort of develops around that. So I have very, very little sort of doubt in my mind that this is something which is going to as well sort of take off. Now, today, what is the scenario which is there? And I think Mr. Munjal very, very rightly mentioned a little while back that it's going to be, this entire thing is going to play out differently for the different segments within the electric vehicles. Now, for instance, let me speak in terms of, say, just the two-wheelers. Now, within the two-wheelers, there is this huge segment of the what is known as the low-speed two-wheelers, which are not required to be registered. Now, hitherto, these have not really sort of been able to access the financing sort of segment, and they have largely been self-financed. While on the other side, the registered two-wheelers, still find the funding. Now, very, very, gradually, from what I understand, this is something where unsecured loans would start getting available. Okay, so for each of these segments, on the private car on the other side, today one thing which still remains is that there are concerns in terms of how would the resale value of these vehicles pan out, and therefore it is more of a person-based funding which is happening. Now, gradually, sort of as the segment develops, there will be more clarity around this, and some of these things will emerge. And of course, should the priority sector lending tag come in or here, that itself will sort of give a lot of wings to the entire initiative. So, I mean, one of the things that we should sort of keep in perspective is that this segment is something which is in a nascent stage today. And as things build up, I mean, be it on the financing side, be it on the insurance side, I mean, things will catch up because, I mean, there is no way that if the numbers on this build up, and this would be a segment which would not be funded, or in any case, I mean, vehicles need to be insured if they are going to be on the road.
Right. So the supplementary market is obviously going to grow when the EV market is going to blossom as well. Let's talk about electric vehicles across market segments. Mr. Munjal, let's talk about personal mobility. What does the future, according to you, look like for EVs when it comes to personal mobility in terms of infrastructure?
Vineet, again, I would divide it up into different categories, because you'll have different forms of personal mobility coming out in cars, you'll have different in other forms of vehicles, and two-wheelers are going to play a very different role when it comes down to it. So personal mobility, personal vehicles are not going away, at least for the two-wheeler segment. We may go to autonomous driving, we may go to different categories when it comes to the larger vehicles, but that's not happening in the two-wheeler segment any time in the near future. So personal mobility will have a very important role to play. While that's the case, shared mobility will also have an important role to play. So this whole segment is going to grow both personally from personal vehicles in the shared category, and then third category, which is a very, very important one, is that of the B2B. Now, B2B, when we look at it, is more about the deliveries. Now, the different forms, again, you've got the e-commerce, you've got food, you've got the couriers and other forms. And so there are some challenges, of course, which exist there because a large part of these businesses are more to do with aggregator model. So the guy who's actually delivering the goods to you is expected to get his own vehicle. Now that again is going to begin to change now as volumes increase, as companies become more green conscious, and as number of states actually start pushing the B2B segment also to begin to convert, start mandating conversion to electric. For example, Delhi has done that. And there are numerous other states which are looking at some policies like this, where at least the B2B segment can begin to be converted into electric from a mandate standpoint. So we are going to find different verticals, we are going to find different categories which are actually going to progress going forward. And in terms of even consumer vehicles, when we find there's going to be different forms in which people are actually buying these vehicles and testing out the vehicles. So you will find that the dealer network is going to expand, and we as a company are very, very focused on a dealer network. So even when we take an order from you on an online basis, for example, we will deliver it through the dealers because we want the dealer interest to be there in order to service the vehicle later. Even we do the same thing when it comes down to B2B deliveries as well. So he's the guy on the ground who's actually servicing the vehicles. So that's our strategy. That's the way that we work forward. So going to have a very, very important role to play in terms of personal, will play a very important role. We anticipate between a switch between a shift or a split between personal and B2B is going to be more to do with B2C is probably going to be about 65% of the market going forward, and about 35 is going to be the B2B segment in the next couple of years. That segment is still small, it's sub 10% right now, but that's where we find that there is going to be growth.
Well, those are fabulous numbers when it comes to at least the next couple of years, Mr. Punjal. It's obviously important to talk about, Mr. Dorai Rajan, the commercial aspect of EVs as well. Do you envisage that the market is going to evolve for EVs in intracity and intercity logistics and mobility and the entire ecosystem of EVs the way it is right now?
Yeah, absolutely. I think what we must also understand is that the total cost of ownership comparison for the electric and say the diesel entry-level sedan suggests that if the electric cars are more favorable than diesel, about 30 to 35 kilometers of daily use. Now, since most of the commercial vehicles have an average use of 150 to 200 kilometers, the electric cars offers a much better TCO proposition. That's the total cost of ownership. The demand for passenger cars for commercial use is rapidly growing, and that we have seen within Tata Motors also, and a significant potential for electrification. Now, some of the issues that have come to the forefront and that will be worth putting on the table is that the acquisition cost initially is high, including a large down payment. The commercial use requires a longer range of uninterrupted running. Public facilities for charging during the day will be needed to ensure minimal downtime. And as we said, that when it's a personal segment, people who tend to use their home charging home chargers more rather than the public chargers. And there are obviously financing challenges also, that is the end consumer getting financing. Now, the affordable long-range offerings that ensure minimal downtime for charging and higher utilization will find higher suitability. If you look at it, the platform providers for the ride-hailing, the large fleet operators, and the independent taxi owners can fuel this demand for the commercial usage. The point-to-point taxis that operate within the municipal limits will also be suitable for EVs. Now, partnerships with financing players will address the issue of higher upfront costs, including down payments. And what we also see is that there is a need to offer a bundled after-sales service which can bring down the cost of ownership and build consumer confidence. I think in conclusion, we could say that if we are able to address the drivers' concerns about the economics, about the operational performances and vehicle positioning, this will expand the adoption of electric four-wheelers across the commercial segment.
Absolutely. Those are concise and very verifiable inputs that definitely will shape the mood, or rather the disposition of a consumer when he goes out in the future to buy an electric vehicle. Last round of questions. We are obviously going to look at the road ahead for electric vehicles. And Mr. Munjal, the charging challenges is something which is definitely going to hound companies as well as policymakers alike. Smart charging in a renewable energy system. How do we power a fully electric transport sector, and how do we make charging easier for not specific but all consumers?
It is a chicken and egg situation, to be honest. Should the charging infrastructure come first, or should you wait for the vehicles to come in, and that makes commercial sense for the charging infrastructure? I believe in the prior one, which is we have to establish that infrastructure to an extent, give confidence to the customers, and then we're going to see a huge amount of uptake on the vehicles. Now, irrespective of what vehicle category we're talking about, I was talking to you about the two-wheelers, where we made our batteries portable. That said, people still have range anxiety issues. So we began installing a charging infrastructure for them. We installed about 2,000 of them in the last couple of years. A large part of the customer base don't really use it, but just having that confidence that, I've got a charger, should I come to have a battery which dies out somewhere, I can plug in my vehicle, which is not too far from where I'm going. So that gives a lot of confidence. Now it's all beginning to make economical sense. So we are tying up with numerous companies to install charging infrastructure for us and for our customers across the country. We've already done numerous such tie-ups over the last number of weeks. So that's what's going to happen. So as the volume of vehicles on the road are increasing, there are companies which are getting more and more confidence in actually investing into this category. Same is the case when you look at battery manufacturing as well. We are a little bit late to the party, but nevertheless, now as it's making commercial sense because we know the volumes are going to increase. Suddenly we are finding the PLI is becoming far more effective than what it would have been a few years back. So charging infrastructure is a very, very important factor. What we need for two-wheelers is a basic but dense charging infrastructure. So no matter where you go, what building you go to, whether it's a commercial establishment or it's a retail establishment or offices or whatever be the case, you can plug in your vehicle to charge because you're going to be doing that top up there. Majority of the charging is going to happen at home. So a very, very important factor.
Absolutely. And you summed it up very beautifully. You said that the confidence of the consumer has to be kept in priority. Mr. Durai Rajan, localization of the EV supply chain is also going to be a big challenge. What are some of those challenges according to you? And how does India get ahead in localizing things that need to be made available for EVs to be a success in our environment and our pockets to be leaner and cleaner?
Yeah, so some of the top line challenges that we can talk about is the capability development in the key systems such as the electrochemistry, the cell development, the auto embedded systems, etc. Also the tier 2, tier 3 localization of the technology components. Then comes the balancing the large investment required to start up with the initial underutilization due to small market size. And as Mr. Munjal said, this market will grow. So obviously the investment needs to come first. Now, and what are some of the opportunities that we have is that we could leverage on the Indian growth story, especially initially in the electric two-wheeler and three-wheeler industry to quickly localize the components. We can also leverage on the key government schemes such as the PLI to build local capability and capacity for advanced technology components. I think overall, this is the way forward. And I think with all this, what I talked about, the Make in India campaign, etc., this will obviously give a thrust.
All right. Mr. Kumar, last question for you. Insurance is obviously going to be an area of concern. Do you think that the sector has been optimized for the risks which are associated and perhaps will be associated with EVs in the future? And if not, where do you think improvement is necessary before it blows out?
So presently, if one was to look at it, Vineet, the policies which are being issued are the same policies as we issue for the other motor vehicles. I mentioned that there were some changes in terms of from a pricing perspective. On third party, there is a 15% discount which is given. What that really means is that for a two-wheeler, it's about a 7.5% on an overall policy, while for a private car, it would be about 4-5%. This being said, obviously, as we will sort of progress, there would be sort of electric vehicle specific covers which will come in. There would need to be a lot of other things which would need to start getting built up in the cover. What happens to, there was this discussion around the charging pods or, the charging accessories. What are the covers for that? There is what about the liability sort of connected with cybersecurity or the connected cars sort of which is there? So these are things which will develop. Something which is going to happen, obviously, is that, sort of through the session, we've heard as to how, the batteries would become cheaper sort of with the progress of time. Now, from an insurance specific perspective today, and the battery in a private car is a very, very significant amount of the value of the vehicle. Now, what that essentially means is that, are we, and I'm not a technical person, but as I understand, a lot of these vehicles have some 16 cell batteries. Now, does a full battery need to be replaced, or can you go out and replace some cells within this? And as we progress with the technology, we will start seeing that. That will start changing the face of the costs, and therefore will start sort of having a positive impact in terms of the premium which is charged. A classical or a conventional motor car would have a lot of the external body, which is metallic. In order to keep the weight down for an electric vehicle, a lot of that is fiber parts. So the entire quandary of sort of repair versus replace sort of in turn has a role to play. In a private car, the battery is at the bottom, is part of the bottom chassis. Now, in a country wherein flooding is something which is fairly sort of common, sort of during the monsoon seasons across geographies, this has another implication in terms of cat risk. So these are things which gradually sort of, as the understanding will progress, will develop. I think what the insurance industry has done for the present is that, in order to give the impetus to the entire segment, we've gone ahead with the conventional cover. But this is something which will by and by develop as the sort of usage of the electric vehicles improves and obviously sort of be in sync with the risk reward kind of a mechanism which is there. But what I can sort of very, very positively say is that as the cost of the batteries will come down, and the cost of the insurance also will come down in tandem, because that's what is a very, very significant part in an electric vehicle.
Absolutely. In a sense, what you're saying, Mr. Kumar, is that as and when the space is going to evolve, the peripheral segments and the support system will also evolve in juxtaposition. And that is perhaps the natural course for any market, for any vehicle or any product, or rather any concept to originate and disseminate. Thank you so much for being a part of this wonderful conversation. And folks, if you've tuned in, then this was perhaps the best crash course you could have had in what the EV market is going to look like, what it is today, what it was in the past, and what it will be in the future. Mr. Munjal, Mr. Kumar, Mr. Dorairajan, appreciate you speaking to me. And this was not only educational for me, but whoever saw this is definitely go back smarter. Thank you so much. Over to you, Deepshika.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Vineet. Anyone who saw this will go back smarter and electrically mobile. So thank you so much, Riteshji, for being here, Naveenji, and Mr. Dorairajan. What a wonderful, wonderful conversation. But the ecosystem is definitely not complete without one stakeholder, which is the dealer itself, the one on the ground. And who better than a gentleman called Mr. Nikun Sanghi, who's also the Director of International Affairs at Federation of Automotive Dealers Association, a past president at FADA as well. I'm sure a lot of our viewers also know of Mr. Sanghi, but it is often said that the axis of the Indian automotive industry is where Mr. Nikun Sanghi stands.
Without much further ado, may I please welcome Mr. Sanghi to come forward and round off the conversation for us with what Mr. Ritesh Kumar shared, Mr. Munjal shared, Mr. Durai Rajan shared, and of course, our Minister Shri Gadkari. Mr. Sanghi, the stage is yours to round off the conversation.
Thank you so much, Deepshika, for having me here. And believe me, it was enlightening for me too, being a part of this conversation and listening to all the luminaries, starting with the Honorable Minister. So let me do the formal vote of thanks. And we first thank the Honorable Union Minister for Road Transport and Highways, Shri Nitin Gadkari ji, our most respected guests, ladies and gentlemen. It's my pleasure to propose a vote of thanks on this occasion. I think of it as an extraordinary privilege to propose a statement of gratitude to all who have seen it and as an essential, fruitful occasion. We are honored to get an opportunity to thank our chief guest, Shri Nitin Gadkari ji, for kindly accepting our welcome, managing to come into the function and sharing his profound thoughts that radiated a source of energy within us. It's always enlightening to listen to him, and it increases our confidence as we, specifically in the auto industry, whenever we have Gadkari ji addressing us. I think the clarity of thought, the clarity of policy that he underlays whenever he comes center stage is something which would be an envy for any leader in this field. I would also like to thank our panelist, Mr. Naveen Munjal, Managing Director at Hero Electric, the market leader in two-wheeler EVs, and who had the foresight to get into this business almost 15 years back when we thought electric is not going to be a reality. And today I'm sure he's leading the pack, and an envy for most manufacturers, and like we say, the legacy manufacturers when it comes to EVs. Always a pleasure to listen to him, and we wish him all the best in his journey to remain the market leader in electric two-wheelers. Mr. Ramesh Durai Rajan, Head Electric Vehicles Commercial Tata Motors. And let me tell you, Tata Motors is actually developing an entire ecosystem of not just electric vehicles, but charging stations and everything that comes with it to make electric a future in India. And I think a pleasure to have corporates like Tata Motors who have the foresight to actually gaze into the future, and not just gaze into the future, to plan and design the future. Thank you so much, Mr. Durai Rajan, for those wonderful words that you spoke, the wonderful insights that you gave, not just about electric vehicles, but also the infrastructure ahead. And finally, of course, Mr. Ritesh Kumar, MD and CEO of Hdfc Ergo, for his insights into how ancillary businesses like insurance and finance are going to behave in this fast-changing space. And I think both insurance and finance will need to be extremely agile and nimble to adopt the change which is coming into the mobility sector. I might also like to thank the moderators, Deepshika and Vineet, who have so wonderfully guided the entire conversation for the pleasure of the listeners and for the knowledge of the listeners. I think moderators like this make events like this extremely useful and important. Finally, of course, Speak in Asia's largest B2B EdTech platform for powering this event. Thank you so much, everybody, for attending this event. And I'm sure we look forward to many, much more so events coming into the future. Thank you once again. Thank you, Deepshika.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sanghi, and I, on behalf of Speaking, as well as, of course, Hdfc Ergo, and I'm sure I speak for Mr. Ritesh Kumar as well, when I thank you from the bottom of our hearts to be here and give your vote of thanks. Without further ado, I think you've thanked everybody, but there's one gentleman that we cannot forget. Parthanil Ghosh, the president of Motor Business Hdfc Ergo, who's the man, the ideator, the curator, and the person who executed everything behind the scenes. I've been privy to this. It's what you're seeing here is months of hard work, which Partha's vision, along with, of course, Mr. Ritesh Kumar's guidance, Anuj Tyagi's support, and the team's have put together today. Thank you very much, everyone. Partha, over to you for closure and thanks. Thank you.
Thank you, Deepshika. And ladies and gentlemen, once again, good afternoon. And on behalf of Hdfc Ergo, it is my privilege and honor to thank you and to be thanking all of you here. I'm sure that we all agree that that this last 1.5 hours have been extremely engaging, and we have been able to get a glimpse of the future of electric mobility in India. Hdfc Ergo, we at Hdfc Ergo envisages to play a role of a catalyst in mobilizing India's electric mobility journey. We believe that as equal stakeholders in the industry, it is our responsibility actually to connect the various players in the ecosystem for a sustainable future. And to this end, this is our first EV Summit, the Series 1, as we are calling it. And we are actually privileged to have our Honorable Union Minister of Road Transport and Highways, Mr. Nitin Gadkari ji, for his keynote address, which has set a tone to this summit and the kind of engagements that we expect to have going forward. Also, thanks to Mr. Anuj Tyagi, our Deputy Managing Director of Hdfc Ergo, for his address and engaging with the Honorable Minister. Thank you, Mr. Naveen Munjal, Managing Director of Hero Electric, to be a part of this panel. Thank you, Mr. Ramesh Durairajan, of Head of Electric Vehicles of Tata Motors, and Mr. Ritesh Kumar, our Managing Director and CEO, to be a part of this panel of this first EV Summit of Hdfc Ergo. Also, Mr. Nikun Sanghi. So your vote of thanks actually gave the fitting closure to this first summit. Thank you very much. Thank you, Vineet, for bringing out the critical aspects of the electric mobility in India. And we hope to continue this conversation in the days and months to come. And Deepshika, thank you very much on behalf of Speakin for jointly hosting this event along with us. So it has been my pleasure to putting this, ladies and gentlemen. We look forward to the future of electric mobility and the green technology in India. Thank you very much.